throwing his moral authority behind a global initiative to uphold children's fundamental rights, despite the church's own poor record in protecting them from sexual abuse. I'm Ed Donahue, AP News.
This is 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now, your WCPT 820 weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. We'll see mostly cloudy skies here for today with a high in the low 50s. Winds out of the south around 5 to 15 miles per hour, gusting as high as 25. For tonight, decreasing cloud cover and a low near 28. By Tuesday, partial sunshine develops, high of 31 degrees. Wednesday, we'll have a chance for some snow showers, possibly mixing with freezing rain and sleet at times. Cloudy skies, a high of 33. That's your latest Chicago weather update.
Currently, it's 43. Spring forward with real unlimited data from Straight Talk this tax season and get a free Samsung Galaxy A16 5G or Moto G Power 5G 2024 with select plans. So you can stream games during Mad March hours, check the weather for April showers, and watch gardening videos about May flowers. Straight Talk, real unlimited data. Available at Walmart and straighttalk.com. Offer valid through 4/15/25. Taxes and fees apply. Requires purchase of single line gold unlimited plan or higher. For network management practices, visit straighttalk.com.
You're listening to WCPT 820, because facts matter.
Welcome to Choose Views with Richard Chu. Get ready to dive into a world of insightful conversations and thought-provoking discussions.
As progressives, our job is to have an all-inclusive, full-on assault with all of our players.
A show that will focus on moving our political, social, economic, gender, and cultural conversation forward.
And all of our players means all of our players.
It's Choose Views. And now, here's your host, Richard Chu.
Hey guys, welcome back to the second hour of Choose Views. 773-763-9278. Give us a holler, send us a text. And shout out to a few of you. Shout out to Laura, who sent me a text this morning. And also to some of the people that I met on Saturday up at the North Shore Center for the Performing Arts. It was great to see you guys out enjoying yourselves. And nice to meet some folks and take a few pictures here and there. So appreciate you guys. And also, just remember, this week we are going to be celebrating 1 year of Choose Views on the air. We thought it'd be fun to do an interview to mark the occasion, but not the kind of interview I do every day on this show where I ask the questions, but an interview where you ask me the questions and I provide the answers. So, of course, we've been running this since last Friday, and we'll keep it going through this week. I'm inviting you to submit a question to me to answer in a video recording that we will put online and play later in the month of February. Ask me about anything: my background, my personal history, my philosophy on life, my fondest memories, favorite movies or music, my thoughts about a historical or current event, and most memorable moments hosting Choose Views, whatever you have on your mind. To submit a question, you can you can text us at 773-763-9278 or email me at richard@wcpt820.com. Like to hear from you, see what you have to say. And of course, if you're listening live, you can just tell Alexa to play WCPT from TuneIn. All right, guys. So I mentioned earlier that we had a couple of clips that I thought would be good for you guys to hear in this conversation around We Tried to Tell You. When I talked earlier, when Kurt called in about the cost of construction, or I shouldn't say with Kurt, it was Cindy. Apologize, Cindy. This is something that's real, and the tariffs are not going to make it any better. We're not going to endure just a short-term pain, Donald Trump. It's going to be longer, and it's harmful, and it's immediately harmful. And here are two examples, not from me, but from people who are out there on the street dealing with this. Let's go to the clip, Devin, of the gentleman that's a Florida roofing contractor.
This is an update on the ICE raids from the perspective of a general contractor. I just had a roofer completely cancel on my job because he is picking up the pieces from all of his other job sites that got raided, and the crews are just gone. So I'm in Fort Lauderdale, and this is a roofer that I've been working with for years. It's sub, it's labor, and I'm providing materials and working under my roofing license with my supervision. So it's how many of the roofers do it down here. And we were figuring out the final details, and I'm like, hey man, let's get that final number together. And I was kind of trying to figure out because he hadn't sent me the final price yet. And I'm like, what's going on, dude? And he finally wrote me just now, and he said, I have to walk from this job. I cannot physically complete it because I am personally working on a number of roofs that the crews are just gone. So how is this helping us?
There you go. How is this helping us? Now, there's people who are going to say, but yeah, Richard, we got to get the illegals out of the country. President Obama had his finger on that conversation, as did President Biden. So I'm not saying that the illegal folks from any part of the world that are here illegally should not be dealt with. Never have said that, and I won't ever say that. We're just being reckless in the way in which we're doing it. And it's impacting people right directly in their day-to-day lives. And what's interesting about all this in many ways is that people I'm not astonished at the numbers of people that are said, I can't believe I voted, can I change my vote or all these things that we've seen since Election Day. And the answer is no, you can't. No, you can't. There's some fixes that the Democratic leadership have in hand, and I can't believe, maybe I shouldn't say I can't believe, I'm maybe pleasantly surprised at the number of people that I saw that sent me things on social media about this conversation around impeachment. And I said it last week, particularly after the freeze of funds caused immediate pain for folks. Immediate. It didn't take a week or longer. It was immediate because of the disruption. So Democrats that are elected officials across the board, all levels, should be looking at ways in which to put forward the energy to call for an impeachment. It doesn't matter if this is the thing. Sometimes Democrats take a position that I think is necessarily effective, and that is to wait to make sure that they've got the votes. Well, sometimes the optics are what voters need to see. It's what, the regular everyday person needs to see, that the folks that they've voted for are doing the work. And so sometimes you don't have the votes. You still have to bring it to the floor. You still have to make it a conversation point. There should be Democrats saying, maybe it's time for us to impeach Donald Trump yet a third time. And yeah, we know that we don't have the numbers in the House. That it shouldn't stop the leadership from moving forward in that space. That's more than my opinion. I was about to say that's just my opinion. It's not. I saw hundreds of folks that on social media posted, and I'm not talking about folks who, out there on the far ends of the world politically. We're talking about many mainstream voices that were saying the same thing. So that's a tool that we have for those who say, I can't believe I voted this way, or this is not what I expected. Well, if you want to see some change in that space, then maybe it's time you contact your elected officials on all levels and say, let's get this guy out of here. And I know the other side of that is J.D. Vance and all the Doge boy dude bros that are behind him. I get that. But it's making a statement. It's moving us in a direction to get rid of this craziness and this carnage. And that's what it is. It's happening right now, live. It's not Memorex. Can I say that? It's an old commercial, in case you guys don't remember. And to that end, I want, there's another clip that Devin and I put together, speaking similarly, but from a different person speaking similarly about the same concern about the ICE raids. Let's go with that.
Yeah, we voted for Trump in 2016, 2020, and 2024. We live in the Florida Panhandle, and we thought that this would be good for our business, but we're finding out now that we were wrong, and I want to publicly say that we are regretting our votes at this point. My husband and me own a construction company, and we literally do not have workers anymore. Most of our workers are from Mexico, and they're good, hard workers. I talked to a few of them, and they said they were just too scared to come back to work because of all the raids. Our construction company is likely to go out of business now, and we don't know what we're going to do, but we're never voting for a Republican again. Ron DeSantis and Trump have been passing laws that negatively affect our business, and I just want to say that I'm sorry for voting for him. I grew up Republican, and it's all I've ever known, but now I can see that me and my whole family have been very wrong about this. So we hope that 2026 comes and we can take back the House and the Senate and stop him from what he's doing. There's a special election coming up in Matt Gaetz's district, and we're going to do everything we can to advocate for a Democrat taking that seat.
See, that's why should folks have to go through the pain of losing their business, potentially losing their business because of that vote? If I can say anything to those who might be of this woman's same scenario, start paying attention, y'all. Stop fighting us and telling us we're destructive liberals, and we're like this guy who sent our friend Kurt Mullett, this local official in Indiana, sent this. Posted a tweet, whatever it was. He was referencing our party. No, we're not the party that wants to destroy businesses by taking away one of the resources that they need to, bless you, Devin, to sustain themselves. We're not that party, and I hate that this woman is enduring and is about to potentially endure more pain and anguish because of how she and so many other people voted. And she's in Florida. She's in the Panhandle. And we know the craziness that's gone on and going on down there. I feel for her in some way because I guess when we put it, the reason that I do is because, she said something that you may have missed. All my life, this is all I've been exposed to. So, stop being narrow-minded in your exposures. Expand it a little bit. Maybe listen to some people that have a different point of view about what will be better for you, or maybe not better for you, but better for all of us. Stop fighting that. Just stop fighting it. There's a lot people throwing you a life preserver, and you're still swimming out to sea. The boat that you were on has had an incident, and you're in the water now, and the sharks are there. Stop fighting us. Stop fighting us. Take the life preserver and let us help you get to safety, and bring some people with you as we go forward. That's the other part of what I would say to her. If I had a conversation with this woman face to face or whatever way, I would say, okay, great. I'm glad that you figured it out, and you want to see people, better leaders in your own state, in your own district. And for those who are MAGA that follow this show, that are trolls and say certain things and text and call in, and that woman is the type of person that's savable. Those that are trolls, that are MAGA trolls, that are locked into their way of belief, you're not really ones that we can save. So rather than throwing you a life preserver, we're going to throw you some stones, not literally. But that lady is someone who we want to welcome her to the conversation, and we need to get her to bring some people with her. That's incredibly important, and it's an opportunity that I hope now that we have a new DNC chair and a new DNC team, that they will recognize that. I posted some things about that this weekend in terms of who was on the team, and I had some initial frustration with some of the folks that have been selected, David Hogg being one of them, and all that. But I understand the goal in having some of the younger faces be part of the DNC team, and that's to bring younger voters to the table. At the same time, don't skip over who your bread and butter is in terms of the African-American men and African-American women and the Latino men and women who have been part of the Democratic Party for such a long time. Don't just skip over those people in the leadership and the team just to say, well, we're going to go after the young white bros. I'm just warning you, that DNC, don't do that. And I know that's a hard pill for some people to hear, but don't just skip over. That will be harmful to the party's success in the future. Don't do it. I'm telling you. I'm telling you from the bottom of my heart. Make sure you're all inclusive in the faces that are representative of the DNC's team. If it's, congratulations that we've got a new DNC chair, Ken Martin, but Ken, and listen, it sounds like he's coming out the right way, Devin. He's coming out swinging, and I applaud him for that. He needs to keep swinging. He needs to be the rhinoceros versus the lion. But don't, in that effort, skip over the people that are the baseline of the party, because it will be destructive beyond what you can imagine. So I'm excited to see that he came out swinging, and he says that it's time to go on offense against Trump. I agree with that. It's time to go on offense against the Republican Party, the MAGA wing that's become more than a wing of the party. Please don't do that. Come out fighting, but don't skip over folks just to, we have, again, this is where all players means all players. This is what Ken Martin's biggest challenge is going to be, is being inclusive, truly being a big tent, and truly bringing in the people that are going to represent the entire nation, rather than just trying to go after micro communities. Go after all of them at the same time. That's what they have to do. All right, we blew past this break. Let's take a quick break. Devin, we'll get some calls on the back end. 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views. We'll be right back.
Check Up on Health with Chris Whitting.
A National Institutes of Health study found that a combination of diet and exercise cuts the risk of developing diabetes by 58%. Here's Dr. George King, Research Director and Chief Science Officer at the Joslin Diabetes Center at Harvard Medical School.
Well, exercise is very, very important, especially those exercises that contracting your muscles. So that would include aerobic exercise and strength training with weights and so forth. If you just exercise moderately for 30 to 40 minutes, the beneficial effect of exercise can last for 48 hours. So that's why the recommendation to do about 100, 150 minutes of exercise a week, because if you do them every other day, that could be very, very helpful.
So you don't need to run a marathon or bench press 300 pounds. The goal is to get active and stay active by doing things you enjoy. With Checkup on Health, I'm Chris Whitting.
Alexa, play WCPT.
WCPT from TuneIn.
Welcome back to Choose Views with Richard Chew on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Hey guys, welcome back to Choose Views, 773-763-9278. A couple of texts, Devin. One said that woman should have hired, that business owner should have been hiring American workers. Okay. Well, I wouldn't disagree with that. But when you say American workers, whoever is saying that, are those American workers? Are they American workers that look that wear a certain costume? I mean, what's the definition of American workers? When I hear that, the first thing that comes to mind is just to ask the question: are people saying American workers and they should be white, or are we saying American workers and they should be citizens? And that's the answer. I don't care what anybody else has to say in that space. If we're going to hire American workers, that they should be citizens, I'm down with that. But it shouldn't be that they look a certain way. And that's what oftentimes is that underbelly. We're the patriots. We're the Americans. We're the true Americans. Oh, really? Okay. All right. There's some immigrants from the south of the border that have been here legally for 3, 4, 5 decades. There are people who have come to the United States from Europe that are here on expired visas. So which ones should be taken out of the country? Which ones are the true Americans? So, anyhow, another great text. Let me get to these guys. It isn't that MAGA isn't listening. MAGAs aren't listening. It's that they weren't affected before. Things don't affect you until they affect you. That's a great text. Thank you for that. Let's see. Trying to hit these guys. Yeah, no blacks or Hispanics on the DNC. Just hearing this, okay. No, there are Kenyatta, the gentleman from Pennsylvania. Bless you, Devin. There is an African-American male, African-American female. I think I saw that there was a Hispanic woman. There is a little bit of diversity there. My point is, in terms of the voices, the faces that are seen, the leadership message, cannot be one that is let's go get the young white bros. That cannot be the message from the DNC. And it cannot be a singular message to one single community. It has to be an all-inclusive message to all communities, and particularly there has to be one that speaks to what people say that the Democrats missed, and that is talking to the middle-class mindset in America. The middle-class mindset is oftentimes depicted imagery-wise as representing a white male-led family with a wife and 2 children. Let's just be honest, y'all. Part of the problem that the Democratic conversation doesn't deal with is dealing with the imagery. That's what middle class America has been represented visually as a white male led family with a white woman, 2 children, white woman at home. That's what middle class America has been represented for such a long time to be. So the DNC can't make its next imagery be about focusing on that group or that imagery. It has to be all-inclusive of all communities, because there's a lot of black folks who are middle-class Americans, Hispanic, Jewish. Listen, that's what the big tent should represent. Bless you, Devin. I'm handing out blessings today, guys. The DNC has to get that in. It has to be in their DNA. The reason that many African Americans were ticked off at the Democratic Party in terms of messaging is because when we talk about middle class America, so often the representation, the visual representation, the imagery is of a stereotypical post-World War II white American family. I'm sure there's a bunch of folks that are either they just felt like they just got pinched on their backside, and there's other people that just raise their hand cheering to say, thank God for saying that. That's the imagery that's been put out there is what representative of the middle America family. Just be honest, y'all. The DNC can't keep buying into and presenting that. Okay? Because that family, that part of America that we all want to be a part of, is a mixture of many different communities and many different cultures and belief systems. And sometimes we say that that's part of the challenge. Our strength is also sometimes our challenge as a Democratic Party. Progressive liberal Democrats have a lot of brains and mindsets and thoughts in it. We're not linear. We're not, just one voice. And some people say we need to have just one voice. Well, that goes back to a comment that I heard from one of Rick Smith's listeners and friends at the Democratic Party. How dare they have Beyonce perform at during the DNC campaigning? Well, so that's to say that Beyonce and her fans are not part of the tent. So the Democratic Party, please don't make DNC specifically. Ken Martin, please don't make the mistake. Please don't make the mistake of focusing your energy, focusing your message, focusing your imagery, focusing your outreach on the stereotypical 1950s post-World War II and Korean War family, because that's not going to win. It's not going to work. I'm telling you, it won't work. If you want an example of what will work, take what Governor Pritzker and Lieutenant Governor Stratton are doing here in Illinois in terms of reaching a broad base of voters, because that's who we are. So, Ken, I'm excited that you, and I'm going to work my behind off to get him on the show. I'm excited that you came out fighting. You came out on the offense. But if I were to give you some advice, you have to make sure that your message is constant, ongoing, far-reaching, and it touches everybody. Even touches those on the right who wish they had voted differently. Okay? If I had a sit-down conversation with you, this is part of what I would be giving you advice to do. Don't just go after the young white dude bros that are in the middle in many ways. Don't just go after the LGBTQ community. Don't do it. You have to be willing to go after everybody. Dr. Why do I always draw a blank on his name? He's the Democratic candidate that got that had that crazy Howard Dean. The 50-state strategy and the all-inclusive strategy, all of our players means all of our players strategy, has to be what the DNC takes the lead on this time. So that's how I see it, and I'm hoping that they are going to be they're going to be open to that, and they're going to be willing to fight for that. Let's grab a quick call before we go to the break. Let's go to Bill up in North Wisconsin. Hey, Bill, good morning, and welcome to Choose Views.
Good morning, Richard. Thanks for taking my call. Congratulations on your anniversary.
Thank you, sir.
I certainly appreciate listening to your points of view. They're right on the spot. The thing I wanted to mention, and it's not going to do us any good to wring our hands over what happened last November. Well, I think, though, what we need to do is take a page out of the Republican Party. I like saying that with the Massachusetts accent, Republican. And I think Democrats and progressives need to adopt that. I had called the Ashland-Bayfield County Democratic Party with a thought to get rid of our Republican representative, Tom Tiffany, with signposts that would read, terminate might not have been the right word, but that was the word, terminate Trump, Toady, Tom, Tiff Insurrectiony, putting insurrection between the syllables of his name. But we don't do things like that, and I think we need to start, because they're catchy little phrases. The Republicans have been doing that for decades now, and I would like to see more of this sort of thing. For example, refer to the GOP not as the grand old party, but the greedy oligarchs party. And greed is not a good thing, for lack of a better word. Thanks for taking my call, and keep up the good work, sir.
Thanks, Bill, for calling. Thanks for your contribution, and I will do my best, bringing you guys the best that I got every day. Listen, Bill makes a good point. That's kind of why I said what I said, or in part of what I said about the new DNC chair. Fight a little bit differently this time. Be willing to bring both a sling blade and a sledgehammer to the fight. That's what I want to see from the DNC this time. All right, guys, quick break. 773-763-9278. We'll be right back.
Hey there, folks. It's Carrie Joy with your Work Money Minute and a tip about saving money when you are renting a car. So you know how you get to the rental counter and then they ask you if you want to prepay for gas so you don't have to bring the car back full. Well, I used to get sweaty in those moments as I wasn't sure what the right money choice was. Prepaying for gas at the rental counter? Not worth it. First off, rental companies often charge more per gallon on the prepay than local gas stations do at the pump. And even if they're about equal, fees or taxes on your rental can tip the scales against prepaying. And you'd have to return that car completely empty to get the full value of buying prepaid gas. Otherwise, you're just buying gas for Avis and Budget or whoever. Quick note, make sure you have time to refill the tank before you return the rental. If you don't prepay and you don't fill up, they are going to charge you like they have refilled that car with liquid gold. For more tips, head to workmoney.org. Till next time, this is Carrie Joy saying, take good care.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. We'll see mostly cloudy skies here for today with a high in the low 50s. Winds out of the south around 5 to 15 miles per hour, gusting as high as 25. For tonight, decreasing cloud cover and a low near 28. By Tuesday, partial sunshine develops, high of 31 degrees. Wednesday, we'll have a chance for some snow showers, possibly mixing with freezing rain and sleet at times. Cloudy skies, a high of 33. That's your latest Chicago weather update. Currently, it's 43.
Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT 820, where facts matter.
You're listening to Choose Views with Richard Chew on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Hey guys, welcome back to Choose Views, 773-763-9278. I kind of said my version of this, but from one of our listeners in Texas sent me this text. Chew, Dems don't have a one-size-fits-all message. We have to herd cats to the voting booth, and our cats don't like the same food. Republicans just offer up hate to their cats. That's all the food that their cats need. That's a well put. Yes, I agree, and that's the challenge. And that's what I was saying about our strength is sometimes our challenge. We have a big tent with a lot of voices, and sometimes those lots of voices get in directions that aren't going to help us get things done. That's the challenge of the Democratic Party right now: is who's going to be the leading voice and voices. And how are they going to go about herding the cats? It is like herding cats. I agree with you, Texas, on that. Thanks for listening, and thanks for your contributions. That's the work. We can resolve that, though. And I think it takes a strong, strong message that we and I'm going to talk about that a little bit more, but because we have a guest that we've got to attend to. So thanks, Texas, for your reply this morning. We cover a lot of different things here on our show. And as I say, I always try to have them lined up to what goes on locally, happens, or affects things nationally, or broader conversations that are part of our national import. And this morning, we have the president of 3 Axis Advisors, Antonio Chacha, with us this morning to talk a little bit about what's going on in the pharmaceutical industry, and I want to certainly ask him, pick his brain on some of the recent executive orders and potential legislation. Antonio, good morning and welcome to Choose Views.
Hey, thanks to be with you.
Good to be with you as well. Well, listen, I wanted to, there's a number of questions I want to ask you, but I know we're going to have the time to ask them all, which is why we'll have you back in the future. But tell us a little bit about 3 Axis Advisors and how you got this business started. What was sort of your reasoning and your why, and then we'll kind of move into some of the things that you're observing about what's happening with some of our largest pharmacy organizations. Tell us about 3 Axis Advisors.
Yeah, so I'm the son of a pharmacist, was always interested in the world of pharmacy. My second job out of college was working with the Ohio Pharmacists Association, so learning about drug pricing from the perspective of pharmacists. They complained about underpayments within the state Medicaid program years ago. And on the other end of the transaction, the state of Ohio was spending more and more money. Those two things didn't add up to me. How could pharmacies be getting paid less under the program, but the state is paying more? We started engaging in data analytics and helped the state of Ohio uncover $245 million of hidden gap between what pharmacies were being paid and what the state was being charged. So I launched my firm with the idea that we spend a lot of money on medicines, but oftentimes we have little understanding of where the money actually goes.
Wow. You got a pretty good team that's with you as well. A couple of folks that have been desirous of being in pharmacy related, the pharmacy business and being a pharmacist. Is that correct?
Well, I've got 2 pharmacists on my team who are expert data analytics folks. My background after I left the pharmacy program was actually journalism. And interestingly, as I'm sure as you might understand, sometimes in order to learn things, you got to look at it from a reporter's perspective. And I very much have looked at myself as engaging in drug pricing journalism. We do that work on behalf of state attorney generals, state auditors, Medicaid programs, and employers. But I think the underlying premise is essentially the same as any reporter.
Got it. So tell me this. You said something earlier about $245 million. So let's talk about that spread between, I guess we'll say manufacturing cost and then markups. What is it as a business owner, but also, as you just said, kind of a pharmaceutical journalist? What have you? Why has that happened at such a increasingly higher rate? I mean, the spread has only gotten bigger over the last 10 to 15 years. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, so think of it this way. When we talk about drug pricing, the first thing that people think of are drug companies, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, drug companies, they sell drugs to wholesalers. Think AmerisourceBergen, Cardinal Health, McKesson. You've probably seen the trucks.
Yep.
Pharmacies buy those drugs from the wholesalers, and then pharmacies are paid via pharmacy benefit managers, or PBMs, who work on behalf of health insurance companies. That's essentially the five main pillars of the stool. Drug companies inflate prices over time, but negotiate big discounts with PBMs, who ultimately determine which drugs will be covered under a benefits program. And then they determine where you as a patient can get those medicines filled. So what we found in Ohio, and other states have seen this too, is where the PBM, working on behalf of the insurance company, they negotiate whatever they can with the pharmacy, let's say $5 to pay them for a specific drug claim. Well, what we found was that on the other end of the transaction, PBMs were reporting a much higher rate back to the Medicaid program, in essence, $11, and pocketing the difference. That was just one way that one member of the drug supply chain can engage in arbitrage, or buy low, sell high, don't tell anybody the difference.
So talk to me about how online pharmacies, if they have had any impact on that. Does it really make any difference?
It depends, right? If spread pricing is ultimately taking advantage of an asymmetry of information and capturing the delta, the question then is, who is the proverbial Jeff Bezos of this marketplace, right? Mm-hmm. Jeff Bezos, his motto is famous: your margin is my opportunity. It stands to reason if medicines are being marked up within the drug channel, then somebody can come in and undercut. Unfortunately, most people don't have a great understanding of what a fair price for a medicine is. Public policy has failed to incentivize lower sticker prices, which means that we rely heavily on a negotiator to essentially effectuate our actual costs. Usually that's our insurance companies and PBMs. But those companies engage in very disparate pricing schemes. You can see the same drug costs $60 under insurance, and the same drug costs $7,500 under insurance at the same time. As a result, we're very under-equipped to navigate what a reasonable price can be, except for one market entrant, really, and that's Mark Cuban, Cost Plus Drug Company. Mark Cuban, the Shark Tank guy, started a pharmacy business a couple of years ago and decided to start publishing his prices. And so he has a very simple, transparent methodology. I paid this much for the drug, and here's my markup, and here's my shipping fee, and voila, that's the price. Outside of that, there hasn't been many market entrants outside of some independent pharmacists who have been willing to put all the cards on the table.
So the PBM part of this, they're essentially the middleman or middle person, if you will, between the manufacturers and really patients' health plans. So can they be eliminated? I don't mean eliminated literally, but can that be taken out of the equation? And because it sounds like what Mark is doing is let's get this more of a direct-to-consumer or end-user platform. Am I right about that in terms of how the PBMs are kind of mucking up the process here?
Without question. And look, in fairness to PBMs, right, we brought them in years ago to act as a necessary counterweight. Drug companies want to make more money today than they made yesterday. The wholesalers do too. The pharmacies do too. So the idea was we bring in PBMs first to just do the simple act of processing a claim at a pharmacy. But then over time, we looked to the PBMs and said, hey, would you start negotiating these drug claims rather than just paying the bill? Now that you're in the middle of so many of them, maybe you could start pushing down. And that all sounds reasonable. It takes a bully to take on a bully. But the problem is that PBMs are also publicly traded companies, and they also want to make money off the same prescriptions they were hired to make more efficient. And so the problem with the industry is it's really starting to run out of control with conflicts of interest. PBMs get kickbacks from drug companies in exchange for preferring their medicine under our benefits plans. PBMs now own their own pharmacies, mail order pharmacies, specialty pharmacies, where they get to set the prices of the medicines that they then dispense. Conversely, they get to set the prices that their competitors are reimbursed under those benefit plans. So you can see where it starts to become a little bit problematic when a Fortune 15 company, which is the three largest PBMs are now Fortune 15 companies, they get to set their own prices, they get kickbacks from drug companies, and they get to set the prices of their competitors.
So there's a certain amount of monopoly that's there, without a doubt. I mean, that's as I was reading, there's 3 companies, or is it 4 companies that have close to 80% of the prescriptions in the U.S.? Is that right?
You're looking at 3 companies: CVS Caremark, Express Scripts, which is owned by Cigna, and OptumRx, which is owned by United Healthcare. Those 3 companies have over 80% of all transactions running through their companies.
So there's clearly a monopoly by 3 companies that are controlling this. So what's the effect? What can be done to affect change in this space? I mean, we're on a progressive, a democratic station right now, talking about ways to improve how the end user, the consumer, the voter, is impacted by legislation. And we just had, a bit of legislation get turned back by an executive order. I'm not trying to take you down the political line one way or the other, but how can legislation impact what these 3 companies are able to do?
Well, years ago, most people couldn't spell PBM. It was a hearing in 2016 where Heather Bresch, the CEO of Mylan, who makes the EpiPen, was hauled before lawmakers and said, why are the prices so high? It was the first public setting where somebody came in and said, look, we have our prices are so high because the PBMs and government programs are demanding bigger and bigger kickbacks or rebates off the top of those list prices. 2 years later, the same thing happened with insulin, where we found rising prices of insulin had no actual correlation to the underlying cost because list prices were going up, but the actual negotiated amount after all the rebates were accounted for had actually been going down. So fast forward the tape, every major committee of jurisdiction has had PBMs under their microscope. Under the Biden administration, the FTC began an investigation as well and actually sued PBMs over their alleged role in inflating the prices of insulin. And now with President Trump coming back, right before he came back into office, he said that he was going after them as well. Meanwhile, you have state attorney generals across the country, Republican and Democrat, who have filed lawsuits against PBMs for their role in inflating the prices of medicines in Medicaid programs, but also their role in perhaps exacerbating the problems of the opioid crisis because of kickbacks that they were getting from Purdue Pharma on OxyContin. So it's coming at them from all sides right now, and legislation is certainly a pathway, but I think litigation and market-based solutions, especially if we could get more transparency in these transactions, I think all those things can help root out some of the inefficiencies and restore PBMs to what they were supposed to be in the first place.
Yeah, so both legislation and litigation, from what you're saying and seeing, Antonio, are going to be the better tools to use to affect change. You said the consumer component. Talk to me about that. What's the consumer component to that? Or the market? You didn't say consumer. You said market. So talk to me about the market impact of that.
So I'll give you a little story. Right down the road from me here in Columbus, there's a pharmacy that opened called Freedom Pharmacy. It was an independent pharmacy owner who wanted to start his own practice because he didn't want to take orders from the bosses, and he wanted to create a pharmacy in his own, like the way he always envisioned. So he started that pharmacy and realized that he couldn't keep it going. He either had to raise his prices so high in order to fit into an insurance-based model, And he basically had no financial control because the PBMs would dictate his reimbursements. Mm-hmm. So what he did is he said, I'm done with this. I'm buying the place right next door, and I'm opening a new pharmacy, and we won't accept insurance. And as a result, I can have prices that are a fraction of what they are right next door. Mm-hmm. And for a lot of reasons that we don't have time to get into, just trust me when I say, insurance, regardless of whether it's good or bad, it incentivizes providers to charge higher prices. And so by unplugging from a system that incentivizes higher prices and just saying, look, I'm going to work with the consumer directly, now all of a sudden those bogus inflated drug prices that everybody sees, they evaporate. And so that, from a consumer's perspective, the tool that the consumer has is shopping around, getting to know your local pharmacist, getting to know what opportunities there are for savings, both inside and outside the system. It's unfortunately very complicated and time-consuming, which most people don't do. But that's the best way that you can take your own fate into your own hands.
Well, I got a little bit of a chill of connected conversation when you were going down this path. And let me read you a text that we received from one of our callers. She says, I worked for an insurance company in 2003. Their personally owned PBM arbitrarily denied and approved medications, as well as jacking up the cost, as well as throwing more meds in the highest tier that they had the lowest insurance coverage. So I know you can kind of peel that apart and talk about it, but basically what you're saying and what this listener is saying is that the insurance companies have had way too much control for way too long, and it stunted the market's ability to affect pricing. Is that a good, fair observation?
Yeah, so I'll give you, again, in color, right? 2 years ago, we did a study on a very popular multiple sclerosis drug called Tecfidera. The list price of the brand drug was $8,275 per claim, all right? Totally unaffordable for almost every American, right?
Yep.
Well, the reason we have high drug prices is a trade-off, right? We tell drug companies, we're going to give you a patent, we're going to let you set the price, and in exchange, after a certain number of years, that drug will go generic, which means everybody gets the recipe for the drug, and now all of a sudden competition can beat the heck out of the price of it, and all of a sudden a very expensive drug can become very affordable. Well, that $8,275 drug, Tecfidera, after just 10 months of generic competition, pharmacies could buy the generic version for $200. Yet if you look at PBM plan designs, and we did this specifically looking in Medicare, despite over $8,000 of savings between the brand and the generic, over half of seniors were enrolled in Part D plans where they forced them to continue getting the brand. And then another 40% of seniors were enrolled in plans that gave them the option between the brand and the generic, but they still incentivized them to get the $8,200 drug and not the $200 drug.
So how did
that is a broken system.
Yeah, this is why we're going to have you back, because of course, you know, we keep talking and having a conversation, and we go down these paths of new knowledge. So help listeners understand the part that you said they incentivized, that the last couple of sentences, that's where I think a lot of people have a disconnect in understanding that, if you can.
So think of it this way, right? If I'm an insurance company and I make money off of everything that I cover, right? I want more things to cover, and I want the patient to have greater need to access their care and medicines through my front door. So an environment of deflated prices, who needs an insurance company, right? Mm-hmm. You know, for most generic drugs are very cheap, okay? Let's think of this like auto insurance. You don't call your insurance company because you need to change the windshield wipers on your car. Think of that as the generic drug, right? Your generic drugs in general are extremely affordable. You can acquire them for $5, $10, almost every single one of them. So why do we have insurance for a cheap deflationary market? Well, because they make a lot of money by underpaying pharmacies and then slapping big markups on top of that which is what we found in the state of Ohio Medicaid program years ago. So insurance companies desire inflated prices, not because they want to pay them, but because they want you to be able to they want you nudged in the direction of working through them in order to access whatever medicine or healthcare service you need.
Mm-hmm. Is there, and this is kind of our last question, but it'll lead us to other questions in the future. Is there still that stigma that generic drugs aren't as good as non-generic drugs? And does that allow the PBMs to push to your direction? I'm sorry, to what you said about the direction of the incentive part of insurance. Do you see my question? By making okay, then I'll shut up and let you answer. Sorry.
No. Years ago, there was that stigma because years ago, we didn't really have generic drugs. It was the Hatch-Waxman Act, which was a bipartisan congressional effort that basically created the environment for interchangeability of generic drugs. There is a very small niche of the consumer marketplace that still demands brand drugs because they want them, and A, and B, they can afford them. But by and large, an overwhelming majority of the Americans, I'm talking like 97, 98% of Americans, when they go to their pharmacy and they have a choice between a brand and generic, they opt for the generic because of the savings.
97%. That's astonishing. I mean, it's common sense. I mean, don't get me wrong, Antonio. I'm a common sense kind of guy. At least I believe I am. But it's still astonishing that weight, that percentage hasn't dominated the conversation in terms of what drugs people should actually be leaning towards. So, listen, I appreciate you being with us this morning. I sat here and I always say this when we have a guest on, and that is, I have to stop taking notes and just listen to the content. And brother, you brought some content this morning, which I really, really appreciate you being with us. And maybe we'll have you back again in the near future, because I'd like to talk more about some of the solutions and some of the ways to go forward and empowering consumers with the information that you have. How can folks find you? How can folks follow what you're doing and the information that you and your team at 3 Access Advisors are putting out there?
Yeah, if you want to become a drug pricing nerd, I never recommend it, but just in case, you can visit us at the number 3 Access, AXIS, advisors.com. Well, we have a lot of public-facing research that I like to think is digestible. You might disagree, but if for nothing else, it'll put you to sleep sometimes.
Well, I've said this to a number of folks. One of the things that we try to do here with this show, Antonio, is give folks information where they become a little bit more informed. And if it puts you to sleep and you learn something, then you need to get after the information at 3, that's the number 3, Access, AXIS, advisors.com, and follow my man, Antonio Chacha, and thank you for being with us this morning. I'm going to nerd out as well, so we appreciate you taking some time to be with us on Choose Views. Thanks, Antonio. Have a great week, and we'll talk soon. All right.
Sounds good. Have a good one.
You too, man. Bye now. Wow. That was a brainful of information. And I think that you guys are probably hating me going, oh, my God, Richard, I couldn't keep up. But it's a topic that's important to all of us, whether you be someone that has medications that you have to take on a regular basis or situational. Somebody that is, part of the system. And that's why having a topic and a conversation with someone that is an expert in that space is valuable to us. So check him out, 3 Access Advisors. His name is Antonio Chacha, CIACCA. And definitely information I think you guys can benefit from. Hey, it's Monday. We've gotten through another show, and I'm glad to have been with you as we kick off this, what I'll call, anniversary week of Choose Views on WCPT. And I just want to say that thanks to so many people, and I'll be giving thanks out through the course of the week, and individuals and to you guys in general for being with us, and to the team here at WCPT for keeping this show rolling along, and all that. We really appreciate the Devons of the world and the Henrys of the world, the Lady B's, the Pauls, and all the rest of the folks that are here day to day, rolling up their sleeves and making sure that we keep our shows live. And shout outs to my colleagues, to Joan and to Patty and to Edwin and to our folks at Out Chicago, and all of our other branded shows as well. We are a team here, and we're doing the best we can to bring you the best that we've got. And hopefully you guys will be a part of our 20th anniversary, which is coming up in May. It's hard to say that because how cool is that? We've been around for a bit. Devin's fighting it, guys. He's fighting it this morning. Bless you, Devin. But anyhow, guys, thanks for being with us. And we really appreciate not just my show, but us as a team here at WCPT. And now that our partnership with Heartland Signal is really taking off, we're excited to be able to bring you the information that we bring each and every day. So stay tuned for the Stephanie Miller Show, Tom Hartman, Joan Esposito, and, of course, Driving It Home with Patty Vasquez. This is Richard Chew. This is Chew's Views. Take a deep breath, guys, and make your life count. We'll see you tomorrow.
Sports Cubicle.
Here in WCPT, we're fortunate enough to have the new head coach of DePaul University, Chris Holtman. You have that tough December where you're going to have 2 conference games, and then does that seem like it's going to work for you? Are you going to be having up tempo, or do you even know that yet?
We are really trying to play with great pace, more so than really at any point in my career. That's something we've really emphasized since the summer.
The Sports Cubicle with Mike Mercado, Devin Tingle, Dan Marver, and Paul Shavari. Sunday nights, 9 p.m. on WCPT.
When you think of erectile dysfunction, think of Mark Drugs. Dr. Craig here with Mark Drugs in Roselle and Deerfield, letting you know that we are here to help. Over 50% of all men over the age of 40 report symptoms of erectile dysfunction, and the other half might be too shy to admit it. We stock generic versions of the most popular ED medications for as little as $1 per pill that we can dispense with a valid prescription. We can also arrange delivery next day if needed. Additionally, we can help if your case is more complicated due to previous prostate issues. You may be a candidate for our prescription compounded Trimix products. We can also help women experiencing dryness or atrophy with low-dose prescription estrogen creams or hormone-free over-the-counter products such as Dr. Cheng's New Eve Silk. We understand that it's not the easiest thing to discuss, but believe me, we've heard it all. We are here to help you love making love again. You have a choice when it comes to your health care, and a great choice is Mark Drugs in Roselle and Deerfield, where you get better health and care for you and your pets. That's markdrugs.com.
Amazon Business offers smart business buying solutions, so you can spend more time growing your business and less time doing the admin. Learn more at Amazon Business.